Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Maroon Friday edition of the Yard. I hope it's a payday for you weekly and bi-weekly wage earners. Maybe today is the golden day. Yeah, hope you get out and have a chance to do some cool stuff this weekend. We're going to be covering Mississippi State baseball scrimmages and the women's basketball game on Sunday. Justin Frommer will fly out tonight to cover Missouri. So we got you covered this weekend with everything related to Mississippi State. Mike Nemeth will cover all three baseball scrimmages. I'll be there today. We'll see what happens on the other days because they haven't announced the time yet, having to dodge some raindrops around here. But, Justin will be in Columbia, Missouri, up in Como for Saturday's game against Missouri. We're going to preview that on today's show. And then I'll be covering Sunday afternoon against Florida as the ladies play. Also want to make you apprised of a couple things. Number one, tonight we're going to give it a shot. You guys have heard before that my son, Ani Robertson, who actually suggested our top 10 list today, reminded me of a modern rock band that's kind of taken the world by storm that we haven't done yet, and he's really gotten into them as of late. But we're going to try to do a baseball streaming show on Facebook tonight. We haven't even really settled on the name yet. I don't know. You know how that stuff goes. But so be looking for that tonight. And if you don't watch streaming stuff, you can always go back and watch it a little bit later. I'm going to figure some things out too, like how to get it on YouTube and things like that. Even though I'm pretty technologically savvy in some respects. Anytime there's something new, it takes me a little bit to kind of get settled. But we're going to stream that tonight. We'll eventually find a way to get it out there as a podcast to you. Just going to be a little 30-minute show once a week. A chance for us to kind of get together and talk a little baseball. He's a guy that played collegiately, so he's got some insight that perhaps many of us don't. So be looking for that. And also, too, our True Rest franchise, our float therapy spa in Stark Vegas opens on Monday. So download the True Rest app and go ahead and start booking your appointments. Guys, Tom Brady is a guy that has a True Rest float pod in his residence. It's a big part of him. Steph Curry, also a floater. You should be a floater too. We're all weird people down here. We all float down here. But you can go ahead and start booking now. And so that, or you can call. Let me give you the number. And if you're not an app person, and you should be. It makes life a whole lot easier. If you don't want to deal with that, you can just call 662-268-7601. 662-268-7601. Had several people book yesterday for other dates, and that's the thing. You can go in and you can go ahead and pick your date and your time, enter your information, and go ahead and book your appointment. But if you're not an app person, or maybe you're having trouble with that, just give a call to the store. Dana's down there now, putting the final adjustments, and we're going to have to work out some kinks. I mean, there's some wall art and things like that hadn't made it in. So we're going to be in pretty good shape. But the pod specialist left yesterday, so everything is set up. Just some fine-tuning we got to do. And please be patient with us in the very beginning as we work out the kinks. We'd certainly appreciate your support. It is an experience that is difficult to describe. So if you're a person that struggles with stress or anxiety or chronic pain, and if you're just a person like me that I am constantly on the go, I'm constantly engaged, I'm overstimulated at all times, constantly on the phone, always worried we're going to miss a big story. When I get a chance to go float, it just really kind of resets things and slows the world down for me. And I think everybody would benefit from this. And we've had some people from all over Mississippi that have contacted us that, we got, one particular guy's got scoliosis. We've got another amputee, somebody that has chronic pain due to some injuries and things like that. And so there are some physical benefits and certainly some mental benefits, and I would suggest some emotional benefits as well. They're doing some experimental therapy right now for people in early recovery, people that struggle with addiction and things of that nature. And so it's pretty revolutionary. You get about 1,200 pounds of magnesium-infused Epsom salt. And that's the cure-all, right? Epsom salt. Anytime that you were sore or whatever. But it's an amazing thing. And it's about physical and mental recovery. If you've never done it, it's worth the opportunity. I loved it so much. The very first time I floated, The very first time I floated, I went home that night and emailed the company to see what we needed to do to get a franchise here to Starkville, Mississippi. Because I wanted all of you, I wanted my friends, my family to have this same level of peace. And guys, I'm going to float every day, at least the first 30 days. I'm going to float every day. I'm going to get in there and just kind of see what happens. It's great. And we're also going to be working with the university, too, to make these services available to our student athletes. So that's a part of it, too. It's not just the fact that we want it to be open to the public. We want to be of service to both Starkville and to Mississippi State. So come be a part of that. I know you're probably intrigued. If you want more information, just visit the True Rest website, truerest.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. And if you got other questions, a little more specific, just call that number. And Dana can answer them for you. Very passionate about this. So we look forward to you guys becoming regular floaters, for sure. Hey, let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. I love Bulldog Burger Company, and I always get excited when we make the decision early in the day. It's like, hey, you want to go to Bulldog tonight? Yeah, I do. My youngest, Ian, works there. Many of you have messaged me and told me what a great young man he is. And I appreciate that more than you can possibly know. I'm very proud of him. He's a great kid. I'm proud of all my children. But he's the one that's kept me young. I'll just kind of say it for what it is. And he absolutely loves working there. His best friends are his co-workers at Bulldog Burger Company. And I think it's one of those things, too. He has come in, started out as a host. Now he's a server. He's worked also in the kitchen at times, working on Expo and things like that. But he's just a guy that loves Bulldog Burger Company. And the fact that he's worked there and kind of given me some inside information, it makes me feel even better about my relationship with Bulldog Burger Company. You want to do business with people that have integrity. You want to do business with people that do things the right way. And that's what you get at Bulldog Burger Company. And you're thinking, okay, well, Steve, I just want to go eat. Well, yeah, that's true. You want to go eat. But you also want to go somewhere where the employees are treated well, where the environment is a very welcoming atmosphere. There's a reason they have such a great level of service. It's how they treat their employees. Makes all the difference. My oldest daughter, Audrey, worked at Harvey's, too. The Eat With Us group is an institution in this part of our state, and for good reason. Those guys know exactly what they're doing. They know how to take care of you. Bulldog Burger Company, 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Go by, have that great restaurant quality hamburger. Get the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. Looking in the mirror today, I need some spring rolls for sure in my life very, very soon. And get that chocolate shake to go. I'm a big advocate for dessert to go. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet, M-E-A-T. It feels so good to win. It does. I have people that tell me, Steve, I always love it when you say that. It's because it's positive. It feels so good to win, period. And man, the ladies are so fun to watch. It's gotten to the point now where I expect us to win every time out. And it's a different hero every night. And now we're starting to see Aaron Barnum really get going. We're a team now that can score from all 5 spots on the floor. Makes us very, very difficult to defend. That's the thing. We go back to this all the time. The teams that can find a consistent third scorer are tough. But all of a sudden, when you can score from all 5 spots on the floor, it makes life awfully difficult on the competition. Let's take a quick look back at this, and then we'll look ahead. The Sunday's game is the Bulldogs and the Florida Gators have a rematch. But, Bulldogs now 20-5. Let that sink in for a second. I don't know if you've checked, but State is now tied for second place in the SEC standings behind South Carolina and with Tennessee. Now, if the tournament started today, because Tennessee had that win over State, Tennessee would be the 2 seed, State would be the 3. We're in a really good position now to finish in the top 4. Really good position. We talked about that on yesterday's show. Schedule's really favorable down the stretch. That road trip to Oxford kind of looms large, but outside of that, you feel like, hey, State should be favored in all those games. That was the case last night. And give Georgia some credit for making the game for a while, but in the end, talent shows up. Georgia now falls 11-12 and 2-8 in the SEC, and now the seller of the SEC. Maybe you didn't expect that. Last year Georgia was a tournament team. Georgia's got a great tradition for women's basketball. Georgia's biggest lead came at 8:49 in the first. State led by as many as 22. in this ball game. Of course, I was late. Part of the deal. But State led for 37 minutes and 10 seconds of 40 minutes of action. Only trailed for 155, and that was all very early. We were kind of figuring things out. But I absolutely love this team, man. Absolutely love this team. And you begin to check it in here, and you start thinking, is it okay to believe, Steve? It is. It is. You had that big loss early in the schedule. You went up there to Chattanooga. Things run great. But you got to remember, too, like even the loss against Miami, we didn't have Jessica Carter. We had some injuries earlier, but now that we're getting back to full strength, there's a couple players that, out for the year. But when you begin to look at what this team is doing, they're beginning to gel at the right time. You want to be playing your best basketball at the end of the year. That's what everybody always talks about. And we are. Now, after one quarter last night, and again, a very offensive quarter, but 23-19. 23-19 after one period of play. Did you expect all that? I don't know if you did. I didn't. But you get back at it, and we get into the second quarter, and Georgia comes out, hits a couple shots. I thought they found some success in the lane. It kind of those mid-range jumpers. They consistently are able to kind of get those looks, and they knock some of those shots down and really were able to stay in the game. And State really began to kind of ratchet up the pressure a little bit. Got some hands and some faces, forced some errant shots, got some rebounds. State pushes it back up to 9 on an Aaron Barnum layup in the paint, just around the 4-minute mark. And kind of maintained that lead, traded a couple baskets here and there, but it's a 39-30 game at the break. Not quite the offensive quarter you had the first period. But I think our ladies were ready to play, and they give Georgia some credit. They came out, I thought, had a really good game plan early on. It just took us a little while to kind of get into the flow. But we're a team. You just be patient with us, and we don't get in foul trouble. We're going to get you. We absolutely are. And let me get here, look at this box score a little bit closer here. Sometimes you get all hemmed up and look at your notes. Maybe you've written something down wrong. That's always the case for me, it seems. But you come out in the second half there, and didn't take long at all, and State's pushed this thing back out, to double digits. It was our largest lead at the time, I guess. But Georgia wouldn't go away. Give them some credit. They wouldn't go away. They continued to battle, and then State takes it back out to 11 on a really nice play by Jessica Carter. And watching our ladies out on the break, it's almost like a thing of beauty at times. And women's basketball has improved so much in recent years. I mean, you begin to think about this, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but the refined skill of an SEC women's basketball player right now is incredible. It's the best the game has ever been. We all know this. It's true. It's true. But I remember some times when, there was no continuity to a game. You go down there, somebody fires up a shot, people kind of stand around and rebound, might get bounced out of bounds or whatever. It's incredible to think how far women's athletics has come, and we just celebrated women in sports yesterday. We got a lot to celebrate with these ladies. And just before we get to the end of the third period, State pushes it out to a 14-point lead. And at that point, we knew the game was over. It was just a matter of what the final score was going to be. Well, that didn't take long either. And State, really good quarter here in the fourth. 19-14 is the quarter differential. And many of Georgia's baskets kind of came when the game was ultimately decided. State put together a really nice run here to really kind of put them away. But again, when you win every quarter, you're going to win the game. State wins the first quarter by 4, and then you're up by 9 at the break. Next thing you know, you're up 14. And so it just kind of the flow of this game really favored State. And it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you're a team like Georgia that just haven't had a good year, you got to go on the road. And it's going to take a miracle fourth quarter to pull this thing out. And State is just simply too good for that. Just simply too good. It's a 15-point lead after Darion Rogers' three-pointer at the 5:47 mark. And from there, it's just kind of one of those things where State just kind of nurses this thing along. Carter pushes it out to 18 right around the 2-minute mark, and it gets as high as 22 with 1:04 to play. Just kind of how it works. And so State wins. We're not going to sit here and belabor the point, but we'll look inside the numbers here real quickly and kind of illustrating It's a new year, which often means new resolutions. Many of you have said, you know what, this year I'm going to eat better. I'm going to be more efficient in what I do. I'm going to do my meal prep. We can make that so easy with you, with our friends with Factor. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery kits take the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in a new year. Skip all the long lines at grocery stores, all the prep work, the cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose from each and every week. They include options like keto or calorie smart, vegan plus, veggie, and so much more. Over 50 weekly add-ons. You got a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. So skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious in most cases than takeout. Get chef-crafted restaurant-quality meals delivered to your door. They're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you to do all the other things you've got planned. Factor has everything I need for a week of flavorful, nutritious eats in addition to ready-to-eat meals. They got cold-pressed juices too, folks. Smoothies, energy bites, extra protein, veggie sides, and so much more to keep us energized during the frantic times in life. Head over to factormeals.com/boneyard50, and that 50 is significant. Use code boneyard50 to get 50% off. That's right. That's code boneyard50 at factormeals.com/boneyard50 to get 50% off. Make your resolutions count. What we talked about. When State can score from all 5 spots on the floor, it's going to be tough. It really is. Jacayla Jordan, 19 points. Salidas, I thought she was outstanding last night on both ends of the floor and every tenet of the game of basketball. And Jacayla's had a couple of games as of late that she hadn't really filled up the basket. Kind of a return to form for her. 33 minutes, 8 of 17 from the floor, 3 of 4 from the line, pulled down 9 rebounds. She's a great rebounding guard. Guys, just one personal foul. She had some foul trouble at Kentucky, just one. Against Georgia last night. Dished out 3 assists, did have a couple turnovers, but she had a team-high 4 blocks and a team-high 4 steals. You couldn't have asked anything more of Jacayla Jordan last night. Absolutely outstanding stat line, and she really was the straw that stirred the Bulldog drink. Jessica Carter with 18 points and 12 rebounds, another double-double for her. 9 of 13 from the floor, and she had one up there that just kind of lingered around on the rim, finally fell off. She, again, good game for her. One shot from the line, and that's when she goes, I'm pretty confident she's going to make it. But stayed out of foul trouble again. That's what happens, man. When they let us play a little bit, we're a little more athletic. We're likely going to win the ball game. Erin Barnum, again, continues to ascend with Mississippi State. 18 points last night, pulled down 6 rebounds, had a big 3-point basket, too. She had to shoot many. It was only her second made 3 of the year. And it was one of those things, too, it was kind of in flow, right? It was in rhythm. When they kicked it out to her there in the corner, you're like, let it go, let it go. And it was nothing but net. Absolutely great shot. Lauren Park Lane, not scoring a lot, but still kind of impacting the game. She dished out 9 assists last night, scored just 4 points. But she has really evolved and become more of a facilitator for us. Depres Chapeau, not a whole lot going last night, but she got there and she played hard. Didn't really look for a shot that much. She was 1 of 5 from the floor. The one make was a 3-point basket. Pulled down 3 rebounds. Also 4 assists, many of those in the interior. A couple of those were to Jessica Carter. I won't say one was to Erin Barnum, but played hard for us. And again, she's a piece, an interesting piece. Darian Rogers, 8 points. So she didn't lead us last night, but again, she was so efficient at what she did. The first lady off the bench, 23 minutes of action, 2 of 6. Both of those were 3-point baskets, and it seemed like both baskets came right in the middle of a Georgia run or when State was just trying to answer a run. Both of them came at big times. Pulled down 1 rebound, and also, it's incredible, 7 assists. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. When we begin to share the basketball, because sometimes in basketball, it doesn't matter if it's a men's or women's side, sometimes we get a little stubborn here. Oh, you got to feed this guy, feed this lady. When we share the basketball the way that State did last night and hand out 27 assists, we are very difficult to beat. Really pleased with the win. I expected the win. You guys did too. Miracle Shepherd, 15 minutes. Didn't play a whole lot, but man, great defense. Did not attempt a shot from the floor. But she is such a terror out there in perimeter defense. But really, really happy with the result. And everybody came out kind of shooting really well there. But State shot 64% in the first quarter. Georgia was at 54%. Think about that. You come out and you shoot 54% on the road and you're still trailing. Just one of those nights that the rims at the hump were charitable. But on the night, State shoots 52.4%. We talked about that second quarter, not quite as good as the first. Well, you shot 17 shots in both quarters. You just made 4 more in the first. Really good effort, for sure. Really good effort. So let's kind of look ahead here. The ladies, again, going to rematch with Florida. And, we played them down there. Let's take a quick look, at what's happened with Florida here as of late. On the women's basketball side, they've got some athletes. Just hadn't really gelled for them. But 12-9 overall, 3-6 in the Southeastern Conference, 7-3 at home, 2-6 in true road games, and 3-0 on a neutral floor. You may recall when we played these ladies down at their place, State won that game 89-77. We'll give you a quick refresh of how that game kind of played out. I'm not going to break the whole thing down, but Jerkayla Jordan, 21 points and 12 rebounds. Jessica Carter, 20 points, 16 rebounds. Debra Chapeau with 13 and 2. Lauren Park-Lang with 12, and then Darian Rogers with 11. So 5 Lady Bulldogs scored in double figures that night. State pulled down 46 rebounds in the game to just 34. When we shoot it as well as we can, we rebound the way that we can, we're tough to beat. Simple as that. And again, it's so much fun to be excited about women's basketball. We've wanted to be good as of late. We've wanted it. And last year certainly was a step in the right direction, especially in the postseason. It made us all so proud. But Sam Purcell has kind of built upon that. And now you feel even better about the direction of women's basketball. It's like, you know what? I remember what this felt like. Praise the Lord and go Dogs, right? Everybody had the shirt. That's what it felt like. It feels like we're beginning to kind of recapture some of our past glory. Now, after Florida lost to Mississippi State back on January 22nd, they traveled to Ole Miss and got beat by 11. They didn't welcome Texas A&M in, and we're going to talk about the Lady Aggies here shortly, but they beat them. Florida gets them 63-51, and then they travel down to Baton Rouge and play Kim Mulkey and LSU and get absolutely smashed, 106-66. It's rough. Well, bounce back game for them last night is they edge Arkansas in a very high-scoring affair, 85-81. And so now we'll welcome them here. And again, it's interesting, one of those anomalies in the schedule. They'll play State and they'll miss back-to-back for a second straight time. They'll play State on Sunday and then turn around on Thursday on the Valentine's Day hangover day, and they will host them in Gainesville. But when you begin to kind of break this thing down, they're the same team that they were before. Not much has changed. It's not they went out and signed a free agent. So we got to show up and play, and we should, and we'll be fine. But I was kind of looking at some quick individual numbers here before we move on. Got Aliyah Matharu, we know her. She was one of us for a long time. Has played 19 games, started 15 of them, is averaging 18.3 points a game. And then there's Leilani Correa, 17.8. And so, and then Rashay Kyle with just over 12. So 3 scorers averaging double figures. Faith Dutt has a block per game, which leads the team. She has 23 blocks on the year, 72 as a team. So, hey, we're going to have to show up and play. We're not going to just be able to go through the motions, but it'll be interesting to see how Matharu handles being back at Humphrey Coliseum. It'll be an emotional game for her. We got no qualm, we got no beef with her. Wish she'd have stayed, right? She was another big three-point shooter for us, and she's done a good job at Florida, and she's a volume shooter now. 123 three-point attempts on the year. She's made 30. And then Leilani also 98 attempts, made 39. So they're going to fire it up from the perimeter. But we do such a good job defending the perimeter, and especially with Miracle Shepherd and with Jerkayla Jordan. I think we're going to force them to probably settle for 2-point shots. So it'll be rather interesting. But if you're on the fence about coming, we encourage you to come. You got a chance to come to the ball game and get home at a decent hour. It's true. All right, let's take a quick look at what happened in women's basketball since we were together. Real quick, I guess standings update. Standings update, because this is fun to talk about. LSU wins, so we're tied now, three-way tie. Three-way tie. LSU, Mississippi State, Tennessee for second place. Did you expect that? I don't think you did. And now you start looking at the tiebreakers because State beat LSU. So it'll be interesting. I just said let's just win the rest of them, right? And then we'll figure it all out later. That'd be great. But South Carolina now 10-0, and of course, they're going to win the SEC. That's no surprise, no hot take there. But last night, a rather interesting night in women's basketball in the Southeastern Conference. Very, very interesting night in that respect. And going to be a full slate of games on Sunday. But last night, really weird. Because, again, Florida wins at home. And Arkansas is pretty decent. I mean, let's just kind of call it for what it is. South Carolina destroys Missouri 83-45. And there used to be a lot of beef between Missouri and South Carolina. Remember, Dawn Staley got ejected in that game. And Missouri beat them a couple times. And, Sophie was great. You may not like her, but she was great. And she got under the skin of South Carolina people. But two programs going in two different directions, for sure. Or maybe that's not even correct. South Carolina maintaining their regular trajectory. Missouri's just dipped down. Alabama last night, huge win for those ladies as they upset Tennessee 72-56. Nothing fluky about that. Big, big win. And we're going to play the Crimson Tide ladies here soon. We're going to bring our best effort. Now, road favorites last night were in short supply. But there was some road upsets as A&M goes to Oxford and beats Coach Yo and the Lady Rebels 72-53. I didn't see that one coming, to be honest with you. Ole Miss has been playing well as of late. Since we had the little social media stuff, they kind of got stirred up. They played well. Last night they didn't. Got absolutely smacked. And that's a big one for us, right? It gives us a little more separation in the standings. LSU goes to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt played really well early on. LSU has really taken charge of things since losing to Mississippi State, 85-62 winners last night. So, again, we've already gone over the standings, but some pretty good results last night as far as the Bulldogs go and kind of how things go. So let's look here at the Sunday schedule because we won't do a Saturday show. Don't get used to me doing this every day. Vanderbilt is at Georgia. That'll be an interesting one. Georgia, again, a team that's just kind of trying to figure some things out. Vanderbilt, hopefully, will rebound if you're a Commodore fan. Probably like Vanderbilt in that game. Auburn then goes to Missouri. Auburn not ranked, but still kind of in the thick of things. Auburn's got to go to Missouri and win. If you're looking for something extremely entertaining to watch on Sunday at 1 o'clock, UConn and South Carolina in Colonial. It'll be packed to the rafters. It'll be a raucous environment. Two of the best women's basketball coaches of all time squaring off here. That'll be a lot of fun. Florida is at Mississippi State. Obviously, I'll be covering that game. We look forward to seeing everybody out there. And then Alabama's at LSU. That'll be interesting, too. Alabama's gotten better as of late. LSU kind of refound or reclaimed in many respects their pride here as of late. That'll be an interesting game. And then Texas A&M is at Kentucky. And weird things happen in Kentucky. It's not exactly sure how that one's going to play out. But that's your schedule this weekend. Your rooting interest is basically everybody that's around us, right? You want to root for everybody that's around us to lose and the teams that are behind us to win. And we just continue to keep winning. The traffic clears. But really, in many respects, state controls its own destiny as far as securing a top 4 seed in a bye in the tournament, in the SEC tournament. Again, we have really done a lot to pad the resume. Just got to finish up, man. And again, quickly on the women's side here before we get to our top 10 list. When you start looking back at all this stuff, kind of what is to come, there's so many teams that are our contemporaries that are all kind of jockeying for position, and that's behind us. So again, this Sunday, Florida comes in on the next Sunday. There's no midweek game next week for the ladies. We head to Oxford, February 18th. If you're on the fence about going, we encourage you to go. And then Kentucky comes here. Kentucky, not a great team, got a couple good players. We'll see what we've learned since that very, very, very difficult game in Lexington that we probably should have lost, but our team simply refused to lose. February 25th, we go to Alabama. Then we go to Auburn. So that's going to be an interesting week. His state has 2 road games in the state of Alabama against 2 teams jockeying for position in the SEC standings and trying to do what they can to pad their resume in hopes of making the NCAA tournament. And then we'll have Senior Day March 3rd as Missouri comes in. And so the schedule, favorable for Mississippi State, but it's getting a little more intriguing. With some of these teams around us beginning to kind of win some ball games. But again, so excited for the ladies in San Purcell. So excited for all of you. Because we didn't know we really loved women's basketball the way we do until the Vic Schaefer years, right? And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, it was so much fun. I don't want that to end. And it did for a little while. But now it feels like, again, we're on the come up. And so let's turn out and come out and support these ladies. If you can't make it to town, we certainly encourage you to watch on the streaming platforms out there on ESPN, wherever it's available, and be a part of it for sure. All right, time for today's Top 10 list is always brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR. Blair Chandler is a mortgage professional. Blair is my friend, your friend, a friend to the world. He's also our collective friend in the mortgage industry. You can trust your mortgage with a lot of people. There's a lot of people vying for your business, but with something this important, it's better to stick with a winner. And that's who Blair is. 23 years of experience, back to back to back. Top 1% close ratio in the country. Recently made the move to Fairway Mortgage. That's what happens, guys like Blair in demand. People want him, building their loans because they know this is a guy, too, that can take you from the application process into home ownership. So you're looking to buy a home, looking to refinance a home. I don't know your needs. Reach out to Blair. Look no further than Blair Chandler at Close with Blair. Let me give you his phone number just between us girls here. 601-500-2344. Again, 601-500-2344. That goes directly to Blair. Not through a call center, not through a receptionist, directly to Blair. Blair's a Bulldog. Blair's a guy that has multiple season tickets in multiple sports. He also has a place here. He's my friend. I wouldn't do business with people that weren't. But Blair can help you navigate through the labyrinth that often is underwriting. So if the dream of home ownership has eluded you before, trust in Blair and give him an opportunity to serve you. All right, requested by the eldest, and I guess soon to be my co-host on a Bulldog baseball show. It's Sleep Token. Now, I don't know if you guys know about them. They're a band from England. They're doing some very experimental things with music. It's so interesting. Like they've done some crazy covers. Like they covered I Want to Dance with Somebody. They've covered Billie Eilish's When the Party's Over. They've covered Hey Ya from Outkast. But they're really a more serious band than that. Like they did that to kind of get their name out there. They've had 3 albums so far, had a couple of EPs, and then when they had the first album come out, Sundowning, they took kind of the best of the EPs and made kind of an expanded edition. But 3 great albums, and I'll tell you, the one that came out last year, Take Me Back to Eden, is absolutely phenomenal. And much of our list today is going to include many of the songs on that album. But every album represented, and of course there's just 3. But I think you're going to really dig these guys. I have for a long time. I think it's great. And they're an anonymous band. Like they wear masks on stage, kind of like Slipknot did, and certainly the Kiss thing. But there you go. A couple of honorable mentions here, for sure. Are You Really Okay is one, for sure. And then Ascensionism is another. So there you go. A couple of honorable mentions. Let's get into the list here. I dig it. I'm just going to tell you right now. This is one of those bands, too, and I love the fact that maybe you don't know who they are, or we don't know who they are, who their true identities are. These guys can play. Very, very different. All right, so let's go number 10, kind of a different track. And I was hesitant to make this number 10 Because I know so many of you maybe have a quick gong. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's like if it doesn't catch you right out of the gate, you're like, well, I don't know if this is for me, Steve. Well, this song kind of has, how do I describe it? Maybe an auto-tuned a cappella type feel to it, if that sounds right. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, well, that's from the lead track on This Place Will Become Your Tomb. But that's what it begins with. That's what the intro is. So be patient, kind of hang in there with it. Now, number 9 on our list, this is another one of those, like, you never know what's coming from these guys, even within a song. Like, listen, I love, like, Aerosmith and AC/DC. I love the 2s and 4s. It's rock and roll, it's rhythm and blues. I love that stuff. But I also love the bands, like I love the new blood where things are getting a little more industrialized again. Maybe not so over the top with that heavy guitar riff. But there's a lot going on in these songs. And you hear it from Bad Omens, you hear it from Sleep Theory and others. I like the direction of music right now. And this is one of those songs, Aqua Regia, pardon me. Very interesting track. Now, number 8, the second single from This Place Will Become Your Tomb is a track called The Love You Want. And lyrically, I think this is one of the better songs in the catalog, but it's also one of these songs where there's a lot going on with it. Just when you feel like things are changing, they change again. There's a lot to it, man. I think you're going to dig them. Number 7, from Take Me Back to Eden, it's a cool track called Vore, V-O-R-E. I love the guitar on this. It's one of those kind of got an infectious bass line. It's a little bit different, even for these guys. There's a little more yelling than maybe in some of the other catalogs too. I mean, like some of these songs, again, they did this really interesting haunting cover of I Want to Dance with Somebody from Whitney Houston. It's much different. All of a sudden you hear that and you think, oh, well, these guys are kind of soft and cuddly. Then all of a sudden you hear Vore and you're like, wait, no. Number 6. There's been this whole thing about acronyms lately. I don't know if it's from a texting culture, but it's Do You Wish That You Loved Me? Number 6, DYWTYLM. Do you wish that you loved me? And you can. I'll take all the love that I can get. But this is, again, another interesting song. It doesn't match a lot in the catalog, which makes it kind of consistent with the Sleep Token experience. Much, much different. Now, these top 5 here, I think, even with the deepest and most ardent supporters of this band, I think most people would agree these top 5. There may be some play in 6 through 10 where you could make an argument for another song. I don't think that's the case for the top 5. Going back to the second album, This Place Will Become Your Tomb, it's Alkaline. That was the lead single on that one. Rockin' track, for sure. For sure. Love the vocal on this one. It's one of those songs, too, that there's a lot of changes. Like the composition of these songs are really kind of next level. Number 3, this was my gateway track to Sleep Token. Heard it on Octane, and I was like, you know what? This is a little bit different. It's a great track called The Offering. And during my research, I found it's the song they've played the most live in their experience. It's still a fan favorite. And you say, Steve, it's just 3 albums. I get it. And you would think a hit from the first album would get played regularly. But this is one of those songs that the crowd has to hear every single time out. Absolutely dig it. I think you will too. Number 2, for a while, this was my favorite song off Take Me Back to Eden. It's a track called Granite. I absolutely dig this one. It's very much in your face with a certain level of restraint. It's like it's not biting you. It's not spitting in your face. It's just kind of right there letting you know that it's focused only on you. Absolutely love it. Number 1, though, and this is one of those songs, like when they make the little change at the end, and if you're familiar with Sleep Token, you know what I'm talking about. It's like this song is so great, and it's so up-tempo, and then they kind of go to this little R&B spot at the end. And the first time I heard it, I thought maybe did I bump something on the phone, or was there a problem with Octane? Did they change songs? And I was unaware. But it works so magically. It's a track called The Summoning. It's one of the best songs in America last year, and made everybody's end of the year list. But that's your Sleep Token experience. Those are my top 10 songs. You may disagree. I tell you again, we how we got on this discussion is, we just did yesterday a lot of the new music, right? A lot of modern music. Because some of you think I'm some dinosaur that only listens to Foreigner and Journey or Twisted Sister or something. That's not true. I love the new blood, and this is one of those bands that I think has some real staying power. And again, they're from across the pond. They're really, in some respects, kind of England's answer to Bad Omens. Bad Omens, an American band. I absolutely love them. They're the biggest thing in rock right now. They're the hottest thing in American rock music right now is Bad Omens. We've talked about it on the show before. These bands are very similar. I like Bad Omens a little bit more, but I really dig Sleep Token. I think the Bad Omens latest album, The Death of Peace of Mind, is an absolute masterpiece. And again, there's some diversity in the type of songs. There's some electronica in there. There's some traditional rock and roll. There's all this layered, overproduced thing that we have now, multi-layered type stuff. But Sleep Token, if you like Bad Omens, you're going to like Sleep Token. And if you like Sleep Token, you're going to like Bad Omens. I'd love to see these bands tour together. It's pretty amazing when you begin to think about kind of how music has changed. Computers have changed a lot. And of course, auto-tune and all the advancements they've made in production have taken some very average singers and made them a lot of money. Because all we really care about is a good song, right? I mean, let's just be honest about it. Not everybody loves live music. That was always the big thing when I was younger. Well, can they pull it off live? There's a lot of you don't even go to live shows. And so you just want a good quality product. And so you put on your iTunes or your Spotify or whatever, and you just want to hear a quality song. You'll never see many of these people perform live ever. Ever. And people forget, too, like even on the Ed Sullivan Show and all that stuff, that the Beatles didn't play. The Box Tops didn't play. They just got up there and mimicked, right? It's a different day and time nowadays, for sure. But it's not even really about pulling it off live. And nowadays, you go to a show, they got so much backing tracks and things of that nature. It's part of the deal. I mean, how many times have you been to a show in your lifetime where the singer just didn't have it that night? You're like, I kind of caught him on a bad night. Well, people don't want that. They don't want you going on social media and said, oh, yeah, I went and saw this particular artist and their voice was shot. It was a terrible performance. Well, that's going to hurt future seats or concert ticket sales, right? So they don't want that. So there's a lot of people out there working with backing tracks. And it's a shame that we stripped Milli Vanilli of their Grammy and now everybody else is Milli Vanilli in many respects. And it's a little bit hyperbole. And if you haven't watched that documentary, you should. It's good. It really is. I enjoyed it. And last night I rewatched the Ric Flair documentary. They just added that to Netflix. I watched it when it first came out when it was on ESPN. About the Nature Boy. And he's part of American culture. But I dig it. I kind of got on the rabbit trail there. But nevertheless, love modern music. And I think this is one of those bands too. Great representation of kind of where music is headed right now. So if you're unfamiliar with Sleep Token, I hope we've done you a solid today and kind of given you a playlist to kind of introduce yourself. But, if you don't have time to listen to all 10 tracks, listen to The Offering, Granted, and The Summoning. Just listen to those three. And I think you're going to feel pretty good. And so, I want to hear a little more about this band. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out and let us know. Matter of fact, we're already booked for Monday and booked for Wednesday. Already kind of got those things lined up for us. And we're going to do a classic American band on Monday, and then we'll do the holiday edition on Valentine's Day. Do you have a sweetie this year? Do you? You got time. Maybe you want to wait. Maybe you don't want to buy that big Valentine's Day gift. Or it is when you first start dating somebody, you don't want to be too forward. It's so funny how that works. I'm one of those kind of people, too, that I always had a weakness of coming on strong, right? And maybe that's what worked for me with Dana, But the reality of it is just be yourself. If you got to be somebody else to be with somebody else, then it's not somebody worth being with. Always be true to yourself, for sure. But that's your top 10 list for today. Again, the best way to find it is to go to Spotify and look at Dogmatic67. That's DAWGMATIC 67. Follow Roy on Twitter, too. He doesn't post pictures of his food and silly stuff like that. It's always Mississippi State stuff and or our list. And Roy, again, great friend to me, and I appreciate his contributions in making our show a little more accessible. And taking our top 10 list and making say, I'll just put a playlist together for you. And I don't do anything for it. He just does it for you guys because he loves the show, loves the top 10 format. And again, we've been doing this, man, 4 years now, top 10? And still coming up with good ideas. And you guys do such a great job with that. And we had some people hit us up about Toby Keith the other day. And I got to give Roy credit. As soon as it was announced that Toby had passed away, he went ahead and recirculated our Toby Keith list that he was instrumental in putting together in the first place. I guess I had some input. I like some Toby Keith stuff too, but really kind of a sad deal, man. And at some point, death comes for all of us. Life is short, death is certain. But man, Toby Keith had a great time eating that big gold, incredible country fried steak at his place, man, for sure. You ever been to Toby Keith's restaurants, man? It's like putting your feet on their mama's tables, except they go ahead and give you a second helping with the first helping. But kind of a sad deal for sure. A lot of people love Toby Keith. And I was unaware that he was even sick. I know some other people are like, oh, yeah, he's been sick for years. But, man, you hate it. You hate to see a guy like that sung so many songs that are anthemic to many Americans around here. And for those of you that are fans of Toby Keith, our condolences go with you. But a lot of people thought we would do Toby Keith on a show this week. We've already done it. But, again, thumbs up to Roy for recirculating that list. For those of you that love the music of Toby Keith. And next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. I love Campus Bookmart. I'm sure you do too. If you don't, you probably haven't done business with them. They make it so easy to get Mississippi State merchandise. Go by and see their smiling faces next time you're in town. The best selection of Mississippi State merch. A lot of people make that claim. Campus Bookmart backs it up. Swing by and see them. Turn off 182 at the Trooper Station. Just kind of mosey on around. They're on the left-hand side just before you get to campus. Go in there and peruse their fine selections. Maybe even change into them and wear them to one of Mississippi State's historic sporting venues. You coming to watch the ladies play? Maybe you're coming to watch baseball? I don't know. I don't know what you got going on. The men are going to be back in town soon. Go ahead and get you some Mississippi State basketball and baseball merch and wear some fresh threads to the ball game. If you can't make it to town, or perhaps you live out of state, live in a foreign country, I don't know what your needs are. You need to find a way to get your hands on some Mississippi State merchandise. Visit campusbookmart.net, and by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75, and you order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. Again, that's campusbookmart.net. All right, let's take a look ahead at Missouri. Mississippi State men be headed up there today. Guys, the Missouri Tigers have lost 10 games in a row. They are 8-15 overall. They have not won a conference game. They are 6-7 at home, 2-6 away, and 0-2 on a neutral floor. It has not been a good year, which is weird, right? Because remember those great Kansas and Missouri games? It was a great rivalry. I don't know why they don't play it anymore. It's kind of silly. A lot of ego involved in all that with Missouri leaving for the SEC. Kansas like, we're never going to play them again. Silliness. But it opened up well enough, man. They beat Arkansas Pine Bluff 101-79. Then they lose to Memphis and Como. Bounce back to beat South Illinois Edwardsville 68-50. They get Minnesota 70-68 in Minneapolis. So at that point, they're 3-1. You think, okay, maybe Memphis is really good this year. They're just okay. Well, then they lose to Jackson State at home, 73-72. How about the SWAC with a couple of SEC wins this year? They bounce back and beat South Carolina State 82-59. They get Loyola 78-70. They get Pitt. So all of a sudden, despite the fact the loss at Jackson State, they kind of righted the ship a little bit, put together a 4-game winning streak that ended against Wichita State. Well, they beat Wichita State to extend, and then they lose to Kansas. It's good to see that game being played again. 73-64. That was in Lawrence, Kansas. Kansas is Kansas. They lose then to Seton Hall 93-87. Very high-scoring affair. That game was played in Kansas City, Missouri. They then lose to Illinois 97-73. Bounce back to beat Central Arkansas 92-59. Lose to Georgia in the SEC opener 75-68 at home. And Georgia's just kind of a middle-of-the-road SEC team. They go to Kentucky, get smacked pretty good, 90-77. They lose at home against South Carolina, 71-69 in overtime. What an entertaining game that had to be. They head over to Tuscaloosa and, like us, give up 90+, lose 93-75. They didn't lose to Florida in Como, 79-67. Drop to College Station, Texas, to Texas A&M, 73-57. They make the return trip out there to Columbia, South Carolina, and lose to the Gamecocks 72-64. But you see a lot of these games are largely competitive. They just can't close, and it's usually close ball games are decided by coaching. Arkansas makes the trip up there, and Arkansas has not been good this year, but they get a win, 91-84. Missouri having trouble, man, defensively. They lose to Vanderbilt. We talked about that. Somebody had to get a win. And Missouri travels to Vandy and loses by 7. And then they get beat by A&M on Wednesday, 79-60. So 10 consecutive losses. With rare exception, though, they've been largely competitive. So don't be surprised if you look up halfway through that ball game and State hadn't gained a lot of separation. It's kind of part of the deal. And I don't care what the season looks like. Anytime you got to put on a dark-colored jersey and go on the road in this conference, you better bring a hard hat with you. Things get awfully tough in this league. But Mississippi State has not won a road game this year. We're hoping for win number 1 tomorrow. Now, looking at scoring, Missouri this year averaging 72.9 points per game, allowing 74. So about a 1.5-point differential there, for sure. Shooting really hadn't been that bad. When you look at, when you look at the record, you'd expect it to be a lot worse. But right at 45% from the floor and shooting right at 33% from beyond the arc. Those numbers are fairly consistent what they're producing and what they're giving up. Rebounding has been an issue. They're averaging 31.6 boards a game, allowing 37.5. So right at a half dozen differential in favor of the opponents. They've dished out 303 assists, right at 13 a game, and allowed 294, also right at 13 a game. Turnovers have been an issue, giving it up about 11 times, just over 11 times per game, but most of that's turned into points. Allowing 13.7 points off turnovers per game. 184 steals, and then they forced 140. 116 blocks as a team, and just 68 is for their opponents. But again, you look at the numbers, they're not dominating in anything. There's not anything you look at and say, well, this is what they do exceptionally well. They really haven't done anything exceptionally well, and their record indicates that. Sean East II, their leading scorer at 15.6 points per game. Tamar Bates pitching in 14.2. He wears number 2. Noah Carter wears the number 35 jersey, a dozen points a game. And then Nick Honor with 10.7. There is a little depth in the rotation here. They've got several guys that are kind of right there around 5-6 points a game, making some contributions off the bench. But by and large, they have played a lot of minutes for their starters. And maybe that's part of the issue. Maybe you just don't have quality depth that can compete in a Southeastern Conference. Aiden Shaw has played in 23 games, started 7. He has 29 blocks, which leads the team. Pulls down a few boards each ball game, but this is, again, there's not a guy that you look at here and say this guy's a rebounding machine. Caleb Grill leads the team at 5.8 boards per game, and Noah Carter just over 5 at 5.1. But, every time that we have games like this, we kind of talk ourselves into thinking we can just show up. We can't. I know what their record indicates, but it's one of those things that gets in your head a little bit. Well, we can't win on the road. We can't win on the road. Look at Tamar Bates' numbers, too. In conference, he has actually been better, averaging almost 20 points a game. And again, he wears number 2. 0-2 is what they have him listed. But it'll be interesting to see how State defenses him. In conference play, he has been really good. Nick Honor has been the best three-point shooter in conference play from a percentage standpoint of the regulars, shooting right at 37%. He's attempted 57 threes, which is the most on the team, and made 21. Where's number 10? So we're going to have to go up there and play. And at this point, we can never assume anything when it comes to a road game in the Southeastern Conference. We have learned the hard way that we can ill afford to do that. But I'm expecting State to win the ball game. We absolutely have to win this ball game. We do. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've put ourselves in a situation. We talked about the schedule easing up for us a little bit. We needed a 2-0 mark this week. We've got the first big one. Now you got to go on the road and get this elusive road win for us. And it's going to be an interesting weekend too. We talk about standings within our league, and we've got to do some things to get caught up here, and that includes winning games like this one. South Carolina and Auburn and Alabama are all tied in a three-way first-place tie for the SEC championship. Did you expect to hear that with South Carolina? I think most people expected Tennessee, Auburn, and maybe Kentucky. But they're South Carolina. 20-3 overall, and they've won 6 games in a row, which is the longest winning streak currently intact in the Southeastern Conference. And, of course, Auburn with a big win over Alabama earlier this week. Tennessee right there at 7-2. Kentucky 6-4. And from there it gets really muddy. Florida 5-4. A&M 5-4. Ole Miss 5-5. LSU 4-5. And then there's State 4-6. Georgia 4-6. And then Arkansas, Vandy, Missouri. Absolutely got to win this weekend. And got to hope for some people around us, some of our contemporaries, to lose. So let's look at our schedule. Should be another great weekend of basketball, guys. Alabama's at LSU. You like Alabama there. That's your 11 a.m. tip tomorrow morning. Vanderbilt travels to South Carolina. The number 13 team going against a team that's tied for first. You certainly like South Carolina's opportunities there. Auburn heads to Florida. Florida kind of mid of the pack. Auburn's still a really good team, and we beat them earlier this year in Humphrey Coliseum. You expect Auburn to win that game. Gonzaga plays at Kentucky. Interesting to have a non-conference affair this late in the year, but they do. Georgia is then at Arkansas, and who knows what our Arkansas team is going to show up. Again, there's so many rumors about so many problems up there at Arkansas, and they love their basketball there. They're not going to be patient with that. Tennessee is at A&M. You like Tennessee there, but Tennessee is one of these teams, even though they're ranked 6th, they got some losses sometimes that just kind of jump off the page. So you know what as athletic as Tennessee is, especially with Connect out there, you start thinking, okay, they got a chance to win every game. But again, going on the road's awfully difficult at times. So that's your schedule for the weekend. But I suspect things will probably go to chalk this weekend. That's what I expect. If I had to pick winners, it's Alabama, South Carolina, Auburn, Kentucky. And do you want to go Georgia? Georgia's so good from the perimeter. We'll go Georgia. And then, of course, Tennessee wins at A&M and then State of Missouri. So you should see some road winners this weekend. But I don't think there's going to be anything really in the way of upsets. But, your Bulldogs certainly need to get a W here. And, again, we talk about, kind of what's coming up for Mississippi State. And, again, it's a one game at a time type deal. It always is. You can't play all 10 of them. But this is a team. This is a Bulldog team. If you win this one, and you've got 2 big home games next week, I think you begin to think, you know what? If we play the way we're capable of playing at home, and you take care of a struggling Arkansas team, and you take care of an Ole Miss team that's played pretty well at times, all of a sudden you've put together a nice little winning streak of 4 games right when it begins to matter most. Then that sets up the big road trip to LSU, the 2 finalists for the Mississippi State job, going head-to-head. Not sure what to expect from LSU. It's a tough place to play when they're winning big. It's not so much when they're not. And then Kentucky comes in here, and then we go to Auburn, you go to A&M, and then South Carolina comes in. And again, that South Carolina team, we were eager to get that one. But, man, look at how they're playing right now. But the way that we played in the hump, you don't know. But, again, once you get through this little stretch here of Arkansas and Ole Miss in the home games, things really begin to tighten up a little bit. So you gotta cut hay while the sun is shining. There's going to be some games down the stretch. I don't think State's going to be favored to win, and we're probably going to have to pull an upset off or 2 to make the NCAA tournament. And again, you never know what's going to happen in the SEC tournament, but we can ill afford to drop really any of these next 3 games. Got to find a way to get all three of those, and all of a sudden that makes you an 18-8 team with just a handful of games left to play. But again, 15-8 right now, 4-6 in the conference, and got to get that elusive road win, man. We absolutely have to do that. And again, we're so good on neutral floors, and we've been so good at home, but something just hasn't worked out for us on the road. And some of those have been games, against some very talented teams. I mean, who knew when we played South Carolina that you'd look up 10 games into the SEC schedule and they're tied for first place? I didn't expect that. I suspect many of you didn't as well. But we have to win against Missouri, and we probably need a 2-0 week next week to really expect our team to remain in contention for the tournament. Again, some quad one opportunities remain, but based on what you've seen from this team right now, I don't think you look at any of them and say, hey, this is a great thing. And again, what happens with Keyshawn Murphy is going to be key down the stretch too. We absolutely need him to be a third scoring option for us. Really good minutes from him the other night. Going to need that to continue this weekend. But again, road trips to Missouri at times have been a little bit dicey, shall we say. You remember when we had the big 3-point basket when Ben Hallen was here and they ruled it a 2? Do you remember that? And even they reviewed it, they stuck with the 2. It didn't make any sense. That's what they do. So we got to go up there and play well. And it's not even just about the quality of competition. I just think to kind of get that off your back, that you can't win on the road. I think that's a very, very significant part of this thing. Get that handled. Kind of breathe a sigh of relief and then come home next week, and should be some raucous crowds here at Humphrey Coliseum for these next 2 ball games. And again, I say it all the time, if you're on the fence about coming, come. We need you here. And again, not going to be many tickets available because our fans have supported this team. Period. Now, the other night, we didn't turn out. We bought a bunch of tickets, so we didn't use them all. But we're going to need you here. If you really want this team to be in the tournament, we need you to make Humphrey Coliseum a very difficult environment for our opponents. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Just Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse. That's the best way to find what you're looking for. You want to see the amenities that are available to you and your guest when you go for a long-term stay at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Whether it's a midweek deal, maybe you're coming to town for work, and maybe you didn't even thought about this. You're like, well, we'll just all get hotel rooms. Why not save some money and save some inconvenience and give yourself a little bit of comfort by staying at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse? Whether it's a ball game weekend or a work trip, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse is the best place for you and several guests to stay. 5 bedrooms, couple baths, that amazing back porch area, the fire pit. Man, and one of the cool things about it too is, it's a fully stocked, it is a full kitchen that you can stock for yourself and just cook. Maybe grill some steaks. Maybe make a sauce, make a gumbo. I don't know what your needs are, but the reality of it is you can do it all right there. Also got that great wet bar. It's the renovated Country Club Clubhouse. Just 5 minutes from campus. Very easy to get to. Had some friends that have stayed there. They were thrilled with all of the amenities that are available there. Again, think about it, because you've got some communal areas you can work, but also a place you can retreat and have some privacy. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Book through the Evolve website. When you pull it up, it's going to give you the option to book through VRBO, Airbnb. You do what you want to do. But I can save you a little money if you book through Evolve. Use promo code BSR10, and that gets you 10% off your stay at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. All right, let's talk a little baseball. And as I mentioned this afternoon, we will be out at Duty Noble Field and working through the final scrimmages. And what you're going to see this weekend is you're going to see the 9, right? You're going to see what should be the starting 9 play the other groups. That's what you're going to see. We've had kind of some inter-squad stuff, but now things start to get serious. We begin setting the depth chart. I want to go over a couple things. Softball also has opening day today, so if you're thinking about heading out to News Park, you should. It will be paid attendance from now on. But baseball also recently had the coaches poll, the preseason poll. We're not well represented, and I think I kind of like that, to be honest with you. That's how I feel. Maybe you feel differently. I kind of like when people don't think much of us. I like to win, most of all, but I also like to surprise people. So your SEC baseball preseason coaches poll. You got Florida number 1 in the East with 11 first-place votes. Tennessee is second with 2 first-place votes and just narrowly edged out Vanderbilt for second place in the preseason poll. 75 points for Tennessee, Vanderbilt 73. They also get 1 vote to win the SEC East. South Carolina is 4th, Kentucky 5. Nick Mingione, our friend, signed a big contract extension in the offseason. They had to face LSU in a super regional last year. But they needed Kentucky to make the postseason, and then they win a regional. Georgia is 6th. That's Wes Johnson, first-year coach Wes Johnson, former Bulldog pitching coach, was part of a 2016 staff that won our first SEC championship since 1989. Missouri is 7th. Coach Jackson, new era up there. The lowest vote total in the SEC went to Missouri. Now in the Western Division, Arkansas, 9 first-place votes, edges out LSU that had 5. I'm going to be honest with you. If I had to vote here, I'm voting Arkansas. I think Arkansas has a team capable of winning an national championship this year. I think LSU is going to be really good. I don't think they're going to be as good as Arkansas. That series will be awfully interesting. Texas A&M 3rd, Alabama 4. I don't see that at all. They got Auburn 5th. I think Auburn's better than that, to be honest with you. If Butch Thompson's going to be able to pitch it, they get Joseph Gonzalez back. He was their regular Friday night guy, didn't get to pitch last year. I think you're going to see Auburn probably battle for 3rd. Ole Miss 6th and Mississippi State 7th. And it was 9 points difference between Ole Miss and State. I'll be honest with you, I don't think that Ole Miss did a lot in the portal either. And then all of a sudden they have these votes, and then Ole Miss has now lost Rivas for the year, and you hate that for the kid. You do. Anybody that loses a weekend starter at this point in the year, it's difficult. It is. All right, looking at your first team SEC preseason all-SEC baseball team, catcher Cole Messina from South Carolina, he of the big home run that turned that series around against Mississippi State off Colby Holcomb. Jack Caglione from Florida is your first baseman. Makes perfect sense to me. Cags is a monster. Cade Curlin from Florida, another guy that can pick it and stick it. Very good defensive player. Tommy White at 3rd. That's no surprise there. Colby Shelton from Florida. So think about that for a second. 3 of your 4 regular infield positions outside of catcher are Florida Gators. Interesting. Jace Laviolette is your outfielder. He had 3 home runs in a game against Mississippi State last year. I still don't understand that. I would not have pitched to him. That's just me. Ethan Petrie from South Carolina. And, man, it feels like Ethan has been at South Carolina forever. Kendall Diggs, who I absolutely love his game. I do. This is a guy that can really defend. He's a guy that can run. He's a guy that can hit for a little bit of pop. He can hit for average. Of the 5 tools, he's probably a 4-tool plus player. Really like him. Really, really like his game a lot. DH is our utility guys. Ike Irish from Auburn. I'm talking to John Cohen about him last year. They really like his approach to the game. He's much more mature than perhaps his birth certificate would indicate. He didn't do much against us. We went out there, even though we lost that series. But we did a pretty good job pitching against him. But this is a guy, too, that is probably a professional great hitter. Hagen Smith from Arkansas, you know what to expect there. You know, Dave and those guys always can pitch it. Drew Bream from Tennessee, expected to be the ace down there. It's going to be a much different look on the mound for Tennessee this year, but as long as Tony is there, they're going to be a very aggressive team. They're going to be in your face. They're going to run the bases aggressively. They're going to pitch aggressively. Brandon Neely, your first team reliever out of Florida. He's a guy that a lot of people expect to go on the second day of the draft. Second team is Devin Burks out of Kentucky, your catcher. Really liked him. We had a chance to see him last year. First baseman is Charlie Condon from Georgia. So Hunter Hines doesn't make the list. I suspect at the end of the year when we look at the numbers that Hunter Hines is going to have better numbers than Charlie Condon. I don't know that he catches cags, but he'll have better offensive numbers. And Hunter's trimmed up a little bit too. You can definitely tell he's really applied himself in the weight room. I'm eager to see what he does this year. Second baseman Christian Moore at Tennessee. Third baseman Billy Amick at Tennessee. Shortstop Jonathan Vastine from Vanderbilt. Think about that for a second, right? We already get all the way to second team, the name of Vanderbilt player, and some people expect them to win the SEC East. Interesting. Braden Montgomery, transfer from Stanford. I know you don't want to hear about it, but it's true. Offensive outfielder from Stanford makes his way to A&M, makes them a better team. Dakota Jordan, your lone Bulldog selected on the preseason All-SEC team by the coaches, will be in right field. Bobby Pierce from Auburn. Really like his game, too. He had a couple of really big hits against us in that series last year. Hayden Travinsky, another guy that feels like he has been at LSU forever. Forever. Your second-team catcher, or DH, excuse me. Starting pitcher, Jack Caglione. How about that? Cags getting picked twice as a first baseman on the first team and a pitcher on the second team. That's a pretty good distinction there. Starting pitcher Carter Holton from Vanderbilt. There are a lot of people really high on him. They think he could be a difference maker for them. And then relief pitcher Alton Davis II at Alabama. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't really impressed with him last year. You know, maybe the new staff can get more out of him. And obviously some people think much highly of him than I do because they got him on a second team. So one Bulldog picked, no Rebels picked. And you can kind of run down the list here yourself and kind of see for yourself. There's a handful of teams that aren't represented. But, it's again, you kind of work through it and begin to ask yourself, I guess Ole Miss may be the only team that didn't have a player picked, now that I think about it. But they kind of work with that, to be honest with you. There's some political parts of that. They want to have everybody that can be represented as the emails come flowing in here. But I'm ready to see us play. And we're a week away. Again, we'll have our final scrimmages this weekend. But I'm ready to see us get on the field. Real quickly here, I guess I missed this coming through. Your picks for SEC champion? Arkansas with 9 votes to win the SEC. LSU with 3, Florida with 2. This Arkansas team is going to be something difficult. Provided they stay healthy, and it's just a matter of time before they win an AFL championship. I mean, we all know this. They're committed to baseball up there. Dave Van Horn, very much an alpha dog. A guy that knows how to recruit and develop players, also knows when and how to process them out. Going to be awfully interesting. Again, we'll preview the weekend next weekend. We'll talk about Mississippi State's series against Air Force. Second time in school history we played them. Both times we'll be here. But again, this weekend, if you got a chance to get out and be watching the Hell State baseball account for updates on start times for Saturday and Sunday, we did get a window today to play. It'll be in the afternoon, and I love that. I love being able to get out there in the afternoon. So we'll finish up here, and then we'll grab something to eat, and then we'll head over to Duty Noble Field. So should be today, no rain expected the rest of the day. It's supposed to roll in tomorrow morning. So that'll be interesting. All weekend long, it's supposed to rain Saturday and Sunday. We really need to get these games in, though. We really need to get the games in and then begin to get on a regular game week schedule. We'll know who's playing. We'll know who's pitching. I don't know when Lamonis announces it. But one of the guys that I haven't talked as much about, and he may be the most improved pitcher on the staff, is Colby Holcomb. You know what to expect from Nate. Colby had some walks last year. Nate really didn't have a lot of walks. Yeah, I've heard some commentary and read some commentary. People are like, well, it was just staff-wide. It really wasn't staff-wide. We didn't pitch it as well as we should have. And Nate was a shining star. The bar was kind of low, but Nate didn't walk a bunch of guys. Colby did. And a lot of that was mechanical. And one of the things that I noticed last year about Colby, we talk about Messina. Colby had Messina struck out and didn't get the call. And the very next pitch, we just decided, it was more on emotion. We decided to throw a fastball, just try to gas him up. And he turns on it, hits a home run. Pitching with passion is different than pitching with emotion. Much different dynamic. Colby, I would say maybe through the end of the fall and on into the spring, has been the best pitcher. Cal Stevenson really good too. He has been. But Colby, I haven't mentioned him as much. It's a possibility to start, but there very much is a possibility for him to start. A lot of people have shared with me that he's really embraced what Justin Parker's trying to teach him. This is a guy that has pro baseball aspirations and potential. So you need to buy in, right? Justin Parker is a guy, again, we talked about this recently. Guy, South Carolina had the second best ERA in the Southeastern Conference last year. And when you're up there with Sully and you're up there with Wes Johnson, you're getting things done. And I would venture to say the talent level at South Carolina was not comparable to what you had at LSU. It wasn't comparable to what you had at Florida. And it shows that the coaching was really good. When you can take above-average players and have them pitch at an elite level, as Justin Parker did, that's very significant. Now, Justin was on Brian's show, Brian Haddad, my friend, and he said this is the most talented pitching staff he's been around. Now, that probably comes across to you guys as coach speak, and I can tell you in my interactions with Justin Parker, it's not consistent with the conversations I've had with him. He's not going to go out there and give you false praise. Now, he may say we have some talent, but for him to say this is the most talented staff he's been around, it speaks volumes to me. There is clearly some untapped potential with this group. And talking to Justin, he'll tell you the kids have been great. You know, like as far as they want to get better. They want to be coached. They want to go out there and win games. They want to eventually have the opportunity to play pro baseball. And so they bought into the system. And as I shared on yesterday's show, when you watch these guys pitch, it's so much more fluid than it was. Now, the flip side of it is, where are we going to be offensively? I'm going to give you again, my prediction, and call it an educated prediction. I think Bryce Chance is in left. Bryce is the guy that was your starting left fielder when Dakota kind of sat for a while, and then, of course, Bryce gets hurt and Dakota gets back in the lineup and never leaves. Connor Hyzak could be really the wild card with this team. Defensively, he's been really good. He is a guy that runs really well. He is a guy that tracks the baseball really well. Could he be a double-digit home run guy, or is he going to be a 250 hitter? We need Connor Hyzak to be really good. He's going to hit deeper in the order. It's going to provide some length for us in this order. You know what you got with DJ. Does DJ hit third or fourth? I suspect he'll hit fourth. Lamonis loves that left-right combo. He does, because then you can't stack, right? You can't stack hitters. And so third base, it's going to be Logan Kohler, who's been really good. Shortstop, I think will be David Marchand to start, but you'll see Dylan Cupp a lot, especially, in non-conference games. Dylan Cupp is an elite defender. Amani Larry, of course, doesn't have a big arm, but makes some very athletic plays out there. There were some times last year that the turn at second cost us some double plays. But Amani's going to be your leadoff guy. Again, another guy that'll work a walk. He's not too proud to take a walk. The guy that really runs the bases. And when you think about, I'm not exactly sure where Marchand's going to be. And I suspect after our scrimmage this weekend, we'll have a pretty good idea what the lineup's going to look like in the batting order. But I like Marchand at second. Now, as Mike Nemeth pointed out, he did strike out a little bit last year, but he was a freshman. But he is a guy, he's a gamer. He can bunt, he can run. He makes contact. You can hit and run with that guy. I'm interested to see if he ends up in the two-hole or not. And then you probably have Hunter Hines at third in the order, playing first. And then I think DJ at 4. And then behind them, does it end up being Ross Highfield? Is it Logan Kohler? Do you have Bryce Chance hitting 6? I kind of like him in that 6 spot. Where does Connor Hyzak hit? The second half of that order, once you get through the cleanup spot, there's some decisions you got to make. And that's not to say there won't be some tweaking as we go along. There certainly will be. I think Joe Powell gives us some opportunities too. I know late in the fall last year, Ross, kind of slowed down a little bit. But Ross has been involved in everything so far. And so, again, Ross is a guy that's a competitor. He's a guy that wants to play. In addition to that, I think Joe Powell gives you the ability that when you need to give him a day off, you're not going to have a big drop-off. Joe Powell is an elite defender, and I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I really wasn't. I know when we went out and added a catcher, and that's a nice insurance policy to have, It truly is, because you begin to think about this. It's like, let's say Ross needs a day off, or let's say for some reason Ross is out for a week or two. Anything like that, you have to prepare for those possibilities. Well, you're left with Jackson Owen, a guy that's just making the move up from junior college, very talented player, but he's never faced SEC pitching. Johnny Long has been a reserve by and large throughout his career, and then you've got Steven Splett as a freshman. Well, if you remove Ross from that equation, that's a scary proposition, and that's not being critical of anybody, but you just don't have anybody with the experience of seeing that SEC breaking ball. And Johnny Long has been better offensively than we expected. It's true. But when you add Joe Powell to the mix, all of a sudden you're like, man, this catcher group is really a strong group. We talked about that on Monday's show. I mean, you went from that group being, razor thin to being a real strong personnel group for this team. But I like the group. And I'm interested to see, kind of how we stack the order. And I'm ready to get on the field and play somebody else. But I think this weekend, again, will give us a nice little preview of what to expect next weekend from the batting order. And things can always change. But one of the things that I love, because I'm a guy that wants to produce content every day. It's like I wake up in the morning and I think about all the things I got to do each day. But when I think about baseball season, it's like it really encourages me to manage my time better, because there's some weeks you got games Tuesday and Wednesday and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have 5 games in a week. And so the content opportunities are plenty, but it also, from a time management standpoint, you can't just sit around and say, I'll record the show this afternoon, or I'll write this column tonight, because you've got to get it all done earlier in the day, which is good for you guys. But we want to do what we can to kind of preview these ball games and make you guys kind of be fully apprised of what's happening with your baseball team. And as I mentioned earlier, softball opens today. And so we encourage you to get out and go support Coach Ricketts and her team as well. And there's so many great things, again, happening at Mississippi State right now. I want everybody to make it. You know what I'm saying? Like I want what's best for Mississippi State. I want Chris Jans to make the tournament and get out of that first weekend, and we'll see how things go. I want Sam Purcell to have a chance to really do some special things and get a great seed in the tournament and get out of that first weekend at the very least. I want Coach Ricketts to make the postseason. I want Coach Simonis to make the postseason. I'm going to support every coach we have here at Mississippi State as long as they're the coach here at Mississippi State. And sometimes things get contentious. I mean, we have an emotional investment too. It's their job, right? And so, like, a coaching change happens, I don't have to go fill out a change of address form. They do. And sometimes we forget they're people. But the reality of it is, that's the profession. You don't win enough, you don't get to stay. And when you begin to think about how they are in that situation unfolded, I mean, there were people in our administration telling me, shortly after the LSU ball game, there's no way we make a coaching change this year. No way. No way we make a coaching change. And then things continued to deteriorate. There were still some people, too, in the decision-making processes. Steve, we've had all these injuries this year, too. You got to factor that in, too. Yes, Zach was a little bit green, a little wet behind the ears, but when you factor in losing QB1 and RB1, you're going to have some setbacks. It's true. But there were times this year on the football field, even in the win against Arkansas, we just did not look like we knew what we were doing on offense. And I've read the column at Cleveland Ball, and of course everybody wrote, and everybody else is aggregating this and passing it off as their own work, which I absolutely despise. Rick got the interview. Rick is the guy that wrote the story. Rick deserves the clicks. But a lot of people out there are like, oh, well, this is dicey and this is scandalous, so I'm going to jump on this and I'm going to write my own column. An article about an article. I can't stand it. It's just amazing to me, and absolutely amazing to me. But at the end of the day, guys, not only have we made a coaching change, we have gone through the December signing period and now the February signing period, and we're still talking about this. Will was at Washington, and I wish him the best. I think so much of Wyatt and Luke and Will Rogers. I do. They're great people, and Will did some amazing things here. But let's not belabor the point now. I mean, that article's weeks old. And I see people out there kind of beating the drum. I told you so, I told you so. Well, congratulations. What is that profit Mississippi State? I told you Arnett wasn't going to work out. What does that change now? Zach Arnett is no longer our coach. This story, in many respects, is no longer relevant. But the enemies of Mississippi State and the butthurt about Mississippi State, well, we want to keep regurgitating this story and beating the drum, talking about, well, I was right. Well, here's my thing. Well, if you knew about it then, why didn't you write about it? If you're in journalism, if you knew then, if you knew back then there was a problem, why didn't you write the story? It's this revisionist history stuff that gets to me. There's a lot of people out there that just aren't genuine. They're not. And that's one thing that I do my best, that I put a lot of pressure on myself to be a genuine article. I don't go write stuff based on what somebody else reports. If somebody reports something, I'm going to get on the phone and try to confirm it. I'll acknowledge the first report, but the reality of it is that I'm not here to aggregate anybody else's journalism. That's not what you pay us for at genespage.com. That's not why you tune into this show. I don't sit at home and watch ball games on the couch. Maybe that's different for you. I don't know what you're willing to pay for. But I know this. I know when it comes to Mississippi State baseball and football, if Mississippi State's playing a ball game, I'm going to be there. With extremely rare exception. Again, just like Justin Farmer going to Missouri, right? We believe in being there. If Mississippi State is playing, we're going to be there. And there's so many people out there that have a byline, and I'm not talking about anybody currently on the Mississippi State beat, so don't get your feelings go to somebody else's message board or social media account. Steve Robertson said this about you. If I want to say it about them, I'll say it. But I'll say it to them privately. But there's so many people out there in our industry that always they never have anything positive to say about Mississippi State. Ever. It doesn't matter what's going on, doesn't matter what's happening. I remember when we go to number one in the country, some of these national college football writers that you guys know so well, they never came to Starkville. They didn't cover a game. They didn't come to a press conference. They didn't come stand with Dan Mullen and Dak Prescott and ask them about how great things are going at Mississippi State. But the first time we got in some trouble, guess who was the first one to go write that article? And so there's not a lot of objectivity and all that kind of stuff. And that's this whole thing with the Will Rogers Arnett thing. And listen, Arnett sat there on signing day, and looked me dead in the eye and said, we're still going to run the air raid passing concepts. Because I asked him, you retooled the entire offensive staff. What does that mean philosophically? You can go back and find it. I'm the one that asked the question. He looked me dead in the eye and he said, we're going to still run the air raid concepts in the passing game. It's going to be some things that Will Rogers is very familiar with. That's what he said. That's not what happened, but that's what he said. So it's not new news. That's all the way back from the very beginning. The very first press conference that we had. And listen, I'm a Zach Arnett fan. Zach's been great to me. But things changed. And let's just be honest about that. Kevin Barbay wasn't our first choice to be offensive coordinator. That's who we got. Didn't work out for us. But I think, Zach's plan initially was, hey, we're going to run the air raid concepts, but we're going to run the football more. Our play calling will change, and schematically a few things will change. We want to run the football more and be a little more of a ball control offense, but we're still going to run the air raid concepts. I think he meant it when he said it. But then he went and hired a guy. I don't think he could find an air raid guy that fit what he wanted to do, that was willing to come. And so you go out and you get Kevin Barbay that runs a very different concept. And it wasn't a great thing for Will. And the thing that I go back to, too, there's so many people out there that are like, well, this happened and that happened. Guys, if Will Rogers, who I absolutely love, if Will saw after spring that this wasn't what it was supposed to be, Will could have transferred. But he's not built that way. And probably it might have even behooved Will Rogers to say, you know what, let me play in a concept that maybe is not a true air raid to kind of show that I can play in some other concepts. I got no problem with what Rogers said. I got no problem with what Wyatt Rogers says. And some other people of you do. I think everybody deserves a right to say whatever they want to say that's on their mind, provided it's true. And I absolutely believe what they're saying is true. Absolutely, without question. But sometimes things change. But at the end of the day, why are we still talking about Zach Arnett? Why are we still talking about Will Rogers? Neither are here anymore. Wish both of them the absolute best. But our focus should be on what's happening at Mississippi State now. What's happening under Jeff Lebby? It's a new era, and it's time for us to get involved. And this other stuff is just distractions. It's just noise. It is. And I'm not saying that in any way to be critical of Will Rogers or his family. I know some of you got your feelings hurt by that, and you're entitled to. I see it differently. I'm focusing more on what will be than what was. Again, changing the guard, it's time for us to throw our full support behind Blake Shapen and Jeff Lebby and this new offensive staff and Jeff Holochek and those guys. That's where our focus should be, not regurgitating, oh, I can't believe this. And like people go share, like, so when Rick Cleveland wrote it, we all went and shared it. Then all of a sudden it begins to get aggregated again. Well, let's go share it again. Let's move on. Let's move on and focus on our future rather than our past. And maybe that's the classic Robertson rant. But I just get tired of let's just regurgitate this old news so we can find something to be upset about. We can find something to feel sorry for ourselves about. Guys, I'm excited about Jeff Lebby. I'm excited about this recruiting class. Do I think it's a great class? No. Is it a really good class? Yes. Have we done enough in the portal? No. Have we done some good things? Yes. But I think all this in many respects to continue this conversation, and I feel dirty doing it now. It's disrespectful to the guys that are here now. Let's focus on that. Very appreciative to Will Rogers for everything he did for Mississippi State. Wish him the best at Washington. But he is no longer our quarterback. Zach Arnett, no matter how well-intended he may have been, did not keep the air raid concepts. And in many respects, may have been a career-defining moment for him. Retooling the offense basically cost us a special season, right? But Zach Arnett is no longer our football coach. So can we please stop retweeting this nonsense? Can we stop sharing this on Facebook? Can we stop talking about it on message boards? It's over. It's your life. Do what you want to do. I just don't think it's helpful to Mississippi State for us to talk about old news again. Let's just go get inflamed again. Things are going too well, so let's go find something to get upset about, right? I wish we could breed that part of the fan base out, to be honest with you. All right, if you haven't done so, go to whenthebottomfalls.com. You get the brand new book, When the Bottom Falls. It's a memoir. It's about my journey to and through drug addiction and alcoholism and how I've been able to maintain sobriety low these many years later. And all of my sports titles are there: Dog Pile, Alpha Dog, Stark Villains, and Flim Flam. And I got the mock-up on the cover for the dude today. They got a few tweaks to make, and once they do, I'm going to share it for you. I'm excited about it, man. Really am. Really, really, really excited about this new book and ready for you guys to have it. So we'll be working hard and getting that out for you because, I guess I don't have enough to do. So I'm opening a new business, writing a new book, and covering Mississippi State and doing your show, being your good friend and host. I love each and every one of you. Hope you have a great weekend. And listen, we all want the same things, and that's for Mississippi State to win. We may all not always agree on how to get there. It may not be a situation where we all are always friends, but always remember, even when somebody says something that you perceive to be negative, or when you see a situation where somebody disagrees with what you think is the solution to any problem in Mississippi State, understand all that comes from a good place. Their delivery of that information may not be good, but we all want the same thing, and that's for Mississippi State to be successful. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.